Last year, I made a review on Dragon Ball Z Kakarot along with the first season pass of DLC, and I do recommend you check that out if you haven't already, but I wanted any new DLC to be more like the future Trunks story rather than what we got from some of the more recent movies. The DLC for Battle of the Gods and Resurrection of F felt like they only served to add a higher level cap while loosely covering the content in each film. Each one of those lasted about 2 hours each, but a majority of the gameplay was nothing but grinding through the same battle over and over again. Not the most interesting content for a season pass, that's for sure, but what the Future Trunks DLC brought was something that felt like a completely fresh experience. It was a plot of its own that had nothing to do with the main story, and in my opinion, it made the season pass worth the price for just that alone. So now my question for today is whether or not this new Season Pass 2 is going to live up to what we saw from Trunks, or end up as being more of a waste of time. Long story short, I can say that the Bardock DLC does live up to the same expectations I had a year ago. The story of Bardock is yet another side plot that we don't often see repeated over and over in every DBZ game. Like I said in my review, the thing that really sets Kakarot apart from every other game is how deep it digs into the details of the DBZ lore. I can count way over a dozen times that I've played a DBZ game with the same Frieza, Saiyan, Cell, and Buu sagas. So being able to see some amazing quality plus extra side missions in an open world surrounding them makes the entire experience so much better. And Bardock takes all these concepts but makes it of course centered around Goku's rebellious father. It shouldn't really be news to anyone what takes place in this DLC since it's a plot that's been told before. The entire story is actually over 30 years old at this point since it's based off of a short film with the same exact story. There's not too much difference between the two, but this DLC is one of the only times it was ever put into a game. So technically, if you just want the story as it is, you can get your hands on that movie and you'll be able to watch it instead of playing it. But it was really nice getting to play through life on Planet Vegeta through Bardock's eyes. We get to see his adventures alongside his crew, and the side quests even give us a glimpse into who each of them even are. And I'ma just say right now that Shugesh is one of the most trash Saiyans I've ever seen, because it should be a crime to have that build while trying to rock the bowl cut, the Fu Manchu, and the sandals.
Why is he already stinking? Oh my goodness!
Like, you just gotta go for that one. Unfortunately, this doesn't go quite as deep as some other stories do, since we don't get to see characters like Goku's mom. And sure, we don't technically get to see her officially until the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, but since it does exist now, it would have been nice to see her added somewhere at least for one side quest. But hey, I can't be too mad though, because there's plot points here that most other games barely even touch on. And we even get to play as Prince Vegeta at the end, which is pretty cool. Now, there's not nearly as much content surrounding his part, but I still found it nice that they let us play as him for a short while. This entire DLC just felt like the perfect beginning towards the story of Dragon Ball, which I'm hoping we'll see more of in Kakarot. As for the overall gameplay here, everything is fairly standard compared to the main campaign. There's still side quests to finish, materials to collect, fish to catch, and meals to cook. But what I did feel was missing here was the large-scale epic battles. While the cinematics were great as usual, I didn't see nearly as much of those epic moments during the fights. You fight bosses like Dodoria, the Ginyu Force, and obviously Frieza. Now in the main game, fights like these tend to have stages where a small animation plays and the fight will change in some way or another, like switching the camera angle as you dodge a flurry of ki blasts. But in Bardock, well, there's not really much of that here, with Frieza's fight being the main one to add anything unique. It's a little disappointing because that's one of the main things that makes this entire game so exciting. That and the overly expressive animations like we got from the Battle of the Gods DLC, which hopefully we'll see more of that in the next two expansions. They brought back more horde battles in this DLC, which are fine, but I also feel like they can be a bit of a time waster. I do get the idea of why these are here, since it ties into the fact that Bardock and crew are wiping out the entire race on each of these planets. But in general, horde battles never seem to offer up much of a real challenge anyway, since I can finish most of them without paying attention. And that's something to really keep in mind, since the entire DLC isn't very long by itself either. There's 7 sub-stories you can play through, and these are the smaller side quests. These take a total of an hour to finish on their own, and I do recommend playing through them if only for extra materials and levels. However, if you do choose to only focus on the main storyline, the game will end up being about an hour and a half long before you see the first credits roll, with about a half hour or so of extra content that you can do afterwards. Which means that it's kind of hard to justify the full $40 price tag for only this so far, but with 2 other DLC coming out in the near future, I'm hoping that they live up to the hype. Bardock's Tale keeps the momentum of Kakarot's amazing storytelling and cinematics. It's more of what I wanted from DLC, and it's really nice to see them add more like this onto this great game. And yeah, some parts may not be on the same epic scale as the main story, but I love the idea of taking these subplots and making them more detailed within this game. The next DLC we'll be seeing is actually an interesting one, since it'll be the first DLC taking place in the original Dragon Ball. And sure, the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai Tournament is the final arc of Dragon Ball, but I'm holding on to a sliver of hope that we do get to play through some of the earlier parts before that time skip takes place. It feels like ages since we've gotten any real Dragon Ball games, and having Kakarot bring that back to us would be a dream come true. But anyway, what do you think about Bardock Alone Against Fate? Is this the kind of DLC that you wanted, or did you want something a bit different? Also, let me know if there's any other stories you'd like to see made as DLC in the future. Personally, I would love to get a Dragon Ball Super Broly DLC or even Fusion Reborn. And hey, they could probably go forever just making DLC based off the movies, so we'll see what they do with that. Subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you all in the next video.